So the next type of a machine is the series machine, right? It is a series DC motor. What is a series DC motor? Series DC motor is an interesting motor arrangement where we have the armature. This is EA and this is RA. They comes in series with the field circuit. Now to differentiate this machine with the shunt motor, we will designate this as RS, and this field winding is RS and this LS. So this whole part is the field circuit. Now let me write this as this is the field circuit, and this one is, of course, this is the armature circuit. Now we should notice one thing. The foremost thing here is that the field current IF is equal to the rated current of the motor IA, which is this current, and that is equal to the line current which is supplied by the terminal voltages that we have applied. So consequently, we need to do certain sort of an arrangement for this series motor. So the first thing that comes here is that this field circuit has fewer windings compared to fewer number of turns compared to the shunt motor. This is the first thing. Second thing here is that because this LS, which is the number of turns on the field circuit, they have to carry the rated current IL. Therefore, the wire used for field circuit has more cross-sectional area compared to the shunt motor, because shunt motor is not carrying the rated current. It is carrying the rated current because this IL is this field current IF and it is this field current IA, and therefore I can say that this IL is equal to IF is equal to IA, right? So these are the two things. The first thing is we require to have fewer number of turns on the field circuit. The second thing is that winding which is wrapped on the field circuit, it should be rated according to the rated current of the motor, which is the armature current. So let us apply the Kirchhoff's voltage law here. So if I apply the KVL on this above circuit to develop the terminal characteristics of a series motor, then we do know that this Vt is equal to EA plus IA into RA plus RS. This is the first equation. The second equation is, we do know that in this motor the flux is proportional to the armature current IA, because it is the same current which is flowing through this field circuit as well. So as the load increases, if it increases, then the torque induced has to be increased, and in order to increase this torque induced, this IA should increase, right? So this IA should increase so that the induced torque can increase. Now this increment in this will also increase this flux, right? When the flux increases, then this EA also increases. When this EA increases, then this IA decreases, right? And hence this speed decreases. So consequently, series motor has a very sharp characteristics, droop characteristics in its torque speed curve. So let us move forward to establish the terminal characteristics of a series motor. This is the first equation that we will use for analysis of the series motor. The second equation is that we do know that this torque induced equal to K phi IA, and we have earlier seen that this phi is proportional to this IA, and therefore if we want to equate it, then this phi is something equal to C times IA, where this C is the constant of proportionality, right? So if I put this phi in here, then this torque induced is equal to KC IA whole square, and this gives us a very important information about the series motor, right? This shows that the induced torque for a given amount of current in a series motor is more than the amount of torque which is induced in a shunt motor of the same rating, because here we can see that this torque induced is proportional to the square of the current I square, and therefore for a given current, the torque induced is more than the torque induced in a shunt motor. So this is the first advantage, which is actually a big advantage of the series motor compared to the shunt motor. We have a very high induced torque here. Now this equation, along with the KVL that we have earlier applied, will provide us the terminal characteristics of this particular machine. So we have this Vt equals to Ea plus Ia into Rs plus Ra, and we do know that this Aa is equal to K phi omega m. What is this Ia? This Ia is equal to, based on this equation, we can say that this Ia is equal to under root of induced torque divided by Kc. So I will put in here. So this becomes equal to root of torque induced divided by Kc into Rs plus Ra. Now what is the value of this flux? If we can find out this value of flux, it will be very good. So to find out the value of flux, we do know that the Ia is equal to flux divided by this constant C. I'm using this equation. So I can get the value of Ia. It is equal to flux over C, and also the induced torque in a machine is equal to K phi Ia. So what is this induced torque? This torque induced is equal to K into phi square over C, right? So what is this phi? Phi becomes equal to C over K into the torque induced. So if I substitute this in here, then this Vt is equal to K C over K into the torque induced omega m plus torque induced over Kc into Rs plus Ra, right? So now if I rearrange this equation, which is written by this red ink, then this Vt minus Ra plus Rs over Kc into torque induced becomes equal to root of Kc into torque induced omega m. So consequently this omega m becomes equal to Vt over under root Kc under root torque induced minus Ra plus Rs divided by Kc, and this gives us the torque speed characteristics of a machine, DC machine, where we have the field winding connected in series with the armature circuit. So if I plot the torque speed characteristics here, this is the torque and this is the speed omega, then we have this type of a curve for a given machine. And we do know that if we have at no load, if we start the motor, then the motor has some sort of this type of circuit. So this torque is very high in the start. So this is the starting torque here. We do not have any speed here. The speed is 0. So the starting torque is very high, right? Starting torque is very high. And eventually if this torque becomes close to 0, that is at no load, then this exponential curve showcases that the speed can be dangerously high if this motor is operated at a no load condition. So because of this exponential curve here, you can see here, this motor is never used unloaded. We always apply some load so that the motor will actually operate at some standard loading torque conditions, and its speed omega m is restricted to that particular point. Otherwise, if we want to have the motor unloaded, then you can see here that as we do not have any load, so this torque induced is equal to 0. So this will go dangerously high. Of course, there are mechanical limitations here that do not permit the motor to go to at infinite speed, but definitely there is a high chance of the motor getting damaged because of this unloaded condition. So the crux here is that this motor, for this series motor, there is only one way we can control the speed of the motor, and that is by varying this Vt. We have earlier discussed that by applying or by using another resistance here, it is physically, it is not a feasible solution to use a resistance to control the speed of the motor, because adding the resistance is actually a lossy criteria. So it will produce the losses here. So we have only one method. However, there is another method that we can have a little bit of control on the motor by actually having tapped inductor winding here. So for example, if we have this LS, instead of having this LS here, we may have some different taps available here, and we apply the Vt here. So this is the Vt here, and we have a switch here. So this Vt is applied to half of the winding for some case, and if we tap it here, it will become full LS, and if we go here, we get maybe 0.25 of LF. So this way we can also have some sort of control on the speed of a motor. But in a serious note, this motor method of controlling the speed of the series motor is only through this Vt. So if I may draw the characteristics of this Vt, then if I have I may have this type of a plots here, So this is, if this is Vt1 and this is Vt2 and this is Vt3, then we do know that this V1 is greater than this V2 and this is greater than this V3, right? There is no other way here. Okay, other than that, likewise, that we have discussed that what happens if we have a disconnection in this field winding. So the motor is absolutely safe. If there is a disconnection here, it will disconnect the armature circuit as well, and therefore the motor will stop. So there is no requirement as such we have seen in the shunt motor, that we require to have a fuse to safeguard in case of there is an accidental disconnection of the field winding with the rest of the circuit. Here we do not require to have. However, we always like to have some fuse here. That fuse is to prevent the motor going beyond the rated armature current of its winding. So the next one is known as the differential compound DC motor, right? So the compound DC motor is the last topic that we will discuss in this particular course on electrical machines. Compound DC motor says that we have, instead of having a single field winding, if this is the RA, this is EA, then we have this is LS, this is LS. We also have the shunt winding RF, and this is the LF. But we also have the part is this LS, and based on this thing, you can see that we can have the connection. We can have a connection in two ways. The first thing is that the flux which is produced by this LS is also producing a flux which is phi S, and this LF is also producing a flux which is phi F, right? Both of them can actually create a cumulative impact on the machine, such that the phi S is added with the flux which is produced by the field winding phi F, by the field winding LF. They can also have a differential impact on the overall machine. That is, impact is a subtraction of the flux which is generated by the field winding and the series field winding. Also, if you notice here, this LF is connected with this Vt, and therefore this is the constant source of the flux. It is constant regardless of what is the loading condition of this motor. However, the flux which is produced because of this LS, it is dependent on the armature current IA, which is flowing here. So at light load conditions, where the load torque requirement is not very high, this IA is low, and therefore the compensation or the field which is produced by this LS is very low, and therefore the motor actually works more like a shunt machine. But as we increase the load, the contribution of this LS increases and the motor acts like a series motor. So here, if we see, if we apply the KVL here to analyze the characteristics of this compound motor, then we do know that this Vt is equal to Ea plus Ia into Ra plus Rs. Sorry, this is Rs, right? And we also know that this Ia is equal to IL minus IF, right? And this IF is equal to Vt over Rf. So the effective shunt field current is this IF is equal to IF plus minus NSE over NS over NF IA minus FAR divided by the NS, and this contributes to the armature reaction. So as the load increases, what happens? Since we have increased the load, then the flux because of the series winding will actually increase, and therefore the motor exhibits a series motor characteristics. What were the series motor characteristics? Something like this one. However, if the load is decreased, if the load is very low, then this phi s is very low, and the motor is predominantly behaving like a shunt motor, which has this type of characteristics. So the overall characteristics of the cumulatively compound DC motor is something like this one. It is neither exponential nor it is a flat line or a constant speed characteristics just like a shunt motor. Moreover, it also has a no load speed. Because at this no load, this Ia is approximately equal to 0, and therefore the Ia is 0. So whatever is the shunt motor characteristics, it will actually exhibit. But as you apply the load here, you gain very high torque here as you start the motor. If you apply some torque, it will act like a series motor, and you know that the series motor induced torque is proportional to the square of the armature current. And because at the no loading condition, we do not have the armature back EMF, which is Ea, it is approximately equal to 0, and consequently it enjoys the behavior of a series motor when it is heavily loaded, and when it is lightly loaded, it becomes equal to it behaves similar fashion with that of the shunt motor. Now this is for a cumulatively compounded DC motor, where the field due to the series winding and the shunt winding, they both actually join hands together, and that is actually a sum. But what if we connect them in such a way that we have a subtractive polarity here, such that the net impact on the field is not a sum of the RS and the of this LS and this LF. Let us say that we have a differential compound motor. Now differential compound motor is never used. It is not used because of some reason. Let us discuss that thing. Now suppose that we have this IA is increased, right? Ia is increased because we have applied the load here. So the load, mechanical load is increased. Consequently, this Ia has increased. Now as this Ia increases, then the flux due to the series winding increases. Now as the flux on the series winding is increased, then the net flux actually decreases, because this net flux is what? It is now a difference of this series and the field winding, right? This is the net flux. This net flux has actually decreased. Now as this net flux decreases, what happens? We have this omega m will actually increase, right? Now as this omega m increases, what happens? As this omega m increases, then Ia increases. As this Ia increases, this theta s increases. As this theta s increases, this theta net decreases, and consequently this omega m again increases, and the motor actually reaches the runaway situation very fast. And therefore this differential compound motor, or a compound motor connected in a differential mode, is not suitable for any application because of its inherent instability. And if you draw the characteristics of the torque versus the speed, it has some sort of these type of characteristics. Moreover to that, it is not possible to start this motor. Why? Because you see that at start, let us say that motor is halted, it's stationary. So at start, what happens? IA, at start we have EA equals to 0. Now that when this EA is equal to 0, then IA is equal to VT over RA plus RS, right? Now because this RA and RS is very small, so IA will become very high. As this IA becomes very high, what happens? That we have this theta S becomes very high. Now if this theta S is very high, so it may possible that it reverses the polarity of the field circuit or the poles that we have generated. Consequently, it may rotate in opposite direction. And may burn up. So how to actually start this motor? If it is differentially compound motor, not only its characteristics are obnoxious for any practical application, we cannot start this motor without short circuiting the series field circuit. So if we want to have a compound DC motor differentially connected, then the arrangement should be such that we have some switch here which is shorted at the start, and later on we can actually turn on this to have a cumulative impact on the motor. But again, as I have said, that the terminal characteristics of this motor are unstable, and therefore this motor is not used anywhere for any practical application. So that's all for the DC motors. Inshallah, in the next module, we will discuss more about we will start the discussion on the AC machines, where we will discuss the synchronous as well as an asynchronous AC machines in detail, which are right now the lifeline of the whole electrical network. So till the next lecture, I wish you all for your holidays and take care, and Allah Hafiz.